So it's Friday night, it's Roxy's birthday weekend, and we're all going to her house for the first time ever for our group sleepover. So we get there, and honestly, everything seemed really normal at first. Roxy's house was really nice, and honestly, I was confused why she never wanted us there before. So then we start making banana bread, and all of a sudden, Laura jumps and screams and runs to the other side of the kitchen. She's like, "Did you guys feel that?" And we're all like, "What are you talking about, Laura?" She's like, "I swear something just touched my lower back." And Laura's face turned really pale, like she was genuinely scared. And we spend the next hour convincing her that no one was there, no one touched her back. So then we start watching a movie, Disturbia. Shout out to Shia LaBeouf. And Nina goes to the bathroom. And when she comes back, she's like, "Roxy, it looks like something upstairs is maybe leaking because there's this massive wet stain on your bathroom wall." And Roxy's like, "Oh, don't worry, that stain's always there." She's like, "We actually can't figure out where it's coming from. We've had plumbers come and they can't figure it out either. There's no drain or pipe or anything that could be causing a leak at that part of the house anyway." And then Roxy says, "But that's why we think our house is haunted." We all look at her kind of shocked, and she's like, "Yeah, that's why I never invited you guys to sleep over, because it can get kind of creepy." But honestly, at that point, I wasn't that creeped out until we went to bed, because that's when stuff started getting weird.
Okay, so I'm about to tell you how you can get back at him by basically getting in his head and staying there forever. Because that petty shit, like sending long ass paragraphs and fucking his best friend, that doesn't work. Because he is going to feel like he was right for letting you go, because the person who is meant for him would not be a petty, immature bitch, okay? So what you need to do is basically become the one that got away. You need to become unavailable to him. You need to follow the 90-day rule, all right? You need to glow up. This sounds like some self-love bullshit, but the thing is that a guy's hardest emotions are sadness, guilt, and regret, because they find it very difficult to deal with. And when you're unavailable to him and you're not putting up with his fucking bullshit and you're becoming a better person without him, he's going to be filled with so much regret. It's literally going to consume him. He's going to put you on a pedestal. Every girl that comes after you, he's going to compare them to you. Him feeling like fucking up with you was the worst mistake he could have ever made. It's the most painful thing you could ever do to him.
Story time. There was this one time in the 6th grade during gym class I was telling my friend some stupid story about elementary school. After I finished talking, I realized she wasn't even fucking listening, so I turned around and looked at her and called her a bitch. Then this ugly-ass popular girl turns around and screams, "Did you just call me a bitch?" I turned to face her and I was like, "I wasn't even talking to you, I'm talking to my friend." Then she gets in my face and says, "Stop lying, I know you called me that because you're jealous of me." After she put her nasty ass smelly mouth in my face, she ran off to tell her little squad everything. After class finished, one of the girls came up to me and said, "If you're gonna talk about my friend like that, we're gonna have a problem." So I screamed back in this bitch's face and said, "I already told your friend that I wasn't even talking to her and I wasn't even facing her direction."
Part 2 of my toxic best friend outing me to the entire school. So at the beach later that day, Heather and I decided to tell Becky how we felt. She freaked and wouldn't talk to us and locked herself in the bathroom. And we had to tell her that it's fine, we won't date, just so she would let herself out. I thought she was being entirely selfish, not wanting her best friends to be happy. And then she literally took my phone and went through all of our texts together. She woke up the next day all ready for Heather and I to be together and completely apologized. And then when we went to the mall that day, she walked away from us to go look at the hot guys, but then turned around and got pissed at us for falling behind. And this is why she said she didn't want us to date, yet we weren't even dating. She said she felt like she was gonna have to choose between Heather and I because of the whole situation, and I guess she just picked me. Becky became extremely codependent and didn't want to leave my side. She was pissed if I spent time with anyone else and basically forced Heather out of my life. I ended up running into Heather and inviting her to my 18th birthday, and this is when Becky had her massive breakdown. At my birthday, she outed me to everyone at the party, my mom, and Heather's mom as well. My Insta is linked below for more content. Story time about how my brother almost beat up some 5th graders. So we had all spent the day out at my family's ranch, and I had brought my boyfriend, Jerry, out to see it. Little backstory, it was built in like the 1920s, and then rebuilt in the early 2000s, and now it's under construction again. So we decided to drive home. We're coming back, I'm feeling tired, and I'm also kind of blind. So my brother decides to take over driving.
Nah, it was really because your driving sucks.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyways, we get close to the neighborhood, and we start to pull up, and as we're going down the street next to our house, the car hits a big thud, and I literally thought my brother had just like hit someone on their bike or something.
Yeah, I thought I gained 20 points for hitting someone.
But then we saw a bunch of people hiding start to run back to their house, and that's when we knew that they had thrown something at our car.
Yeah, and they didn't know I was packing my heater that day. I had my Glock on my side.
Okay, chill. My brother literally turns to my boyfriend and goes, "Hey, do you know how to fight?"
Well, in my defense, Jeremy seems too nice.
Jeremy says yes, and then they whip the car into the driveway. Like for part 2.
This is why you need to watch out for the shy ones. I'm European, and when I was 16, I attended a Catholic high school in the States. All of it was new to me and I felt like I was in a teen movie sometimes. Another new thing to me was having to change classes every hour. Where I'm from, you sit 5 hours at the same desk with the same people nearby and just the professors alternate every hour. I sat next to this guy named Mark in my English class. He was nice and friendly despite being introverted. It amazed me that whenever I talked to him, he never looked me in the eye. He would always look around or at the ground, often moving his eyes quickly. I assumed it was a way to combat his shyness. One morning, I sit next to Mark as usual and start talking. I asked him if I could copy his homework as I didn't finish the last part of mine, and he kindly accepted. The next day, I noticed that Mark is absent. A few days go by and rumors start circulating in the hallways that poor Mark, on his way home, found his mother dead. 2 weeks pass and the rumors start getting out of hand. Things like how his mother's head was in the oven or that she was robbed. Then one day, Mark came back to school and he seemed extremely sad. I put my arm around him in class and told him I'm sorry. This is when, for the first time ever, he looked me straight in the eye and thanked me. However, something about this was off. This is why you should be careful who you talk to online. When I was 15 and getting into my junior year, I created a Twitter account. I didn't tell anyone my username, including my family or friends. I also didn't upload any pictures or specify my exact location, and I put a different city than where I lived. I had around 30 followers and I didn't follow many people. One evening in October, someone sent me a weird direct message. They had 200 followers and the message read, "Hi, I'm Robin, I just turned 17. I wanted to know if you lived in the city because I'm moving there and I'm going to that high school soon. I'd like to make some new friends." I immediately thought something was wrong because nowhere in my profile did I list my actual town, but I remembered a tweet I made a few weeks ago about buses in which I mentioned my city. I was bored and he was polite, so we started talking. The discussion was mainly about high school teachers and cafeteria food. As it got later in the night, he started asking more personal questions like if I lived far from the school or if I was ever home alone. I never answered these questions because it was too shady for me. The next day we talked again and started bonding. I developed feelings for him over the next few weeks. He was handsome and super kind, which was everything I needed after being bullied for so many years. We had a 2-week vacation in October, and at the end of it is when he finally told me that he would be attending my high school. I was so excited to finally meet him. This is why you never truly know someone. When I was 10 years old, I met my best friend. We were pretty much inseparable. All throughout school, we were always by each other's side. Our last names both started with J, so we had almost every class together. He was a smart kid and a model student. However, his home life wasn't the best. He also had ADHD and was bipolar. My family was like a second family to him. As we grew into adults, our views differed on what we wanted to do with our lives. He had his first child when he was 18 and split up with the child's mom, so the thought of college never sat well with him. He worked a 9-to-5 job instead to support himself. By 21, he met another woman and had a child with her. This time he was doing good. He stayed with her and was taking care of both of his children. I was really proud of him for stepping up and getting his life together. Suddenly, something inside him flipped like a switch. He randomly up and left that woman and moved to another state. I hadn't spoken to him for 2 months after he did this. One late night, I was woken up by a phone call from his mother saying that he was in jail. I asked what for and she told me that he raped a 15-year-old girl. He was caught and sent to jail. He was serving 2 years behind bars only because there were texts from that girl saying that she was 18 years old. 2.5 years went by when he finally got out. I told him he could stay with me until he was back on his feet, but he refused. Then things took a dark turn.
Am I the asshole for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate? I, 29 female, dated a guy, Joe, 30 male, for 3 months before he left me to go back to his ex, Kim. Right after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant. I let him know and he was ecstatic. Turns out his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally, and he has always wanted to be a father. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment because of COVID, and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Kim, she had a mental breakdown about infertility and wanted to talk to me. I met them at their house, and Kim stated that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmother. She started telling me that I needed to do a home birth, that I needed to do formula feed so that they could have the babies half of the week, that she wanted one boy and one girl, and that she wanted the kid to call her mama.
Oh my God.
Part 3 to the murder of Cody Johnson. So at this point, friends and family know that Cody is missing. So they go to Cody and Jordan's house to help. And when they're over there, Jordan just seems upset instead of happy that people are actually helping. At one point, she gets so upset that she throws her wedding ring. Well, obviously with this behavior, the police call her in to question her. They're like, hey, was there a fight? She says no. They're like, well, do you think you know where he went? She's like, well, he does like to go out on very fast joyrides, almost suggesting that they were going too fast and maybe crashed somewhere. She also said that she didn't make a missing persons report in case he came back and was upset with her. Well, the cops were potentially thinking that this was a drug deal gone wrong, because that wasn't uncommon for the area. Search parties were looking for Cody everywhere until an email came in. I'll insert this email now from Cody the Carman. And Jordan originally showed this email to her friend, and it was her friend who encouraged her to take this email to the cops instead of her just doing it herself. It stated that his body was in Glacier National Park, but when she took this to the police, she showed no emotion, but they still decided to search there.
Part 2 of the most outrageous thing I saw while working as a waitress. So about 90 seconds later, he's back in the door without her, going, I think I left my... Then when the door shut and looking to make sure she was out of earshot, he goes, without the slightest shade of shame or embarrassment, mark the tip down to $20, hun. I was just playing it up for my date. You understand. Then turns to leave. I understood, but not how he hoped I would. However, I couldn't make a scene in the middle of work. That's not my place, so I just said one more time in order to give his conscience a chance to sink in. Okay, sir, you'd like to amend your tip from $100 to $20, is that correct? Even though I didn't show any displeasure in my voice, he shot back extremely hostile. Yes, and if I see a cent over 20 on there, I'm going to dispute the whole meal with my credit vendor, so don't try to pull anything. The most frustrating part of this for me was not even going from over a 30% tip to a 10% tip, but rather that this poor girl was being strung along with no idea of who this guy was behind her back. It was extremely manipulative of him, which is a major red flag. I really wanted to show that girl the trick he just pulled, but I was at work and it wasn't my place. However, just in time, something occurred to me and I darted outside hoping to catch him in the parking lot.